Hold on one second. It's there we go. We are now recording.
Thanks, Dana. Well, good afternoon again to everybody. We appreciate you joining us on this Friday afternoon to go through some legacy product as well as some very new product in the Altronic 3, the 3NG, the 5, and the 5NG ignition systems. So one of our most seasoned folks and senior folks here, Tom Smith, was kind enough to take on the role of moderator here and leader in this discussion here to talk about this both the traditional products and the brand new products. So Thomas, thank you again for doing this here, and sir, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can hear you just great, Tom.
Okay, very good. All right. Today we're going to take a look at the Altronic 3, 3NG, 5, and 5NG, and do a little bit of a review and let everybody know where we're at and what's going on with the products and the evolution, literature, updates, and such. So with that, we'll get started. Okay, first of all, a lot of the reference material in this presentation is all out of the literature, and we all have to have a common thread, which is the literature, which is all on our website, altronic-llc.com. There may be some new folks here that don't know exactly where to get all that. So from that website homepage, you go to the downloads, and from there, the first thing we're going to go through is the 3 and the 3NG. And with those products, it's broken down, and this is the way it's been since the dawn of time of Altronic, is we have a brochure, then we have an application which tells you how to choose the product, then we have the installation instructions, then we have the service manual, shop repairs, what to do to do various testing. So in addition to the 3s, then we have the 3NG series, and that's, again, the brochure, the application, installation, and service. So that's where you're going to find all the literature. So the Altronic 3, everything on the left of the page is basically the text on the top of the brochure, just expanded so you can read it a little better. But the Altronic 3 is up to 16 outputs per unit, so that does your typical Cats and Waukeshas, Superiors, engines of that classification. All the features, this product has been available since the late 70s. It's available for 2 and 4 cycle engines. Most of the applications are 4 cycle. And these are basically ignitions that are solid state ignitions, meaning there's no moving parts in there internally that is going to wear like the old breaker point magnetos. And this was a big upgrade back in those days, because these products will often go 5, 10 years or more before they need any kind of service. So this really fixed a lot of the issues that we had seen with the old breaker point magnetos. The unit that you see here is of a somewhat current design. This is not the NG. On the back cover, you have a timing mark, clockwise and counterclockwise, which is used for timing. We have the alternator section up this end on the back cover, which is removable, which has all of the internal electronics in it. The back side of the brochure, this is the front side, back side, and it shows how the back cover can be removed, and all the electronics, trigger plate, timing arm, everything is in that back cover. The Altronic 3 Legacy, which is what we call the original Altronic 3, all of those are still available, even though we've moved into the NG, the new generation, next generation product line. So there's still the crossover between the NG units and the legacy units. And in some cases, like when you need a T or a timing option, that is where you have an extra connector on the back cover, and it interfaces to various timing control boxes. Those you're still going to have to use the Legacy 3. None of the NG products have the T connector as of right now. Maybe in the future they will, but as of right now, if you have a product that you have to replace with a T connector, you're going to have to use the Legacy 3. The two boxes you see over here on the right side, those are two boxes that interface and give you different timing options. This one that's connected right here is the 381-601, and that gave you two different settings, which typically was timing for dual fuel, like if you had propane as a backup and natural gas, or landfill gas, or some other type of lower quality BTU gas. Gave you the ability to switch between gases and get two different timing settings. The other box that you see here, 381-610, that is now obsolete, and that was used on Superior engines, and that gave you a timing versus RPM curve. So most of the products that would use that 381-610 have already moved into CPU 95, and so there's the T connector units are still available. 610 box is not. Manual timing box is still available. So these units are self-powered, meaning that the coupling it's bolted to the engine. By the coupling turning, it turns an alternator section, which generates the electricity. So they're all totally self-contained. The electronics are all solid state. Eliminates breaker points. The back cover is modular and can be removed and replaced in the field. They're easily installed and timed, and used and accepted throughout the world. It's pretty much the standard. This is a little bit more of a close-up of the alternator section on the right. It's got a drive gear as it comes through the shaft as it's mounted. This drives the gear on the back cover on the left side there, and that turns a timer arm, and this timer arm triggers these pickup coils. These are the pickup coils in white that you see here, and this entire plate will have one pickup coil per cylinder, and that is what we're going to replace with the NG, a different newer style, as well as the circuit board. Those two items are going to be integrated all into one circuit board. So this is the circuit board that can still be replaced. The cutaway view on the right side shows basically the entire side view of the Altronic 3. The flange, which is removable and replaceable for the various flange requirements. The coupling is replaceable. The drive shaft with the permanent magnet alternator. The stator, which makes the electricity for the storage into the storage capacitor. In the back cover, and all the electronics here for the timing are integrated through these two gears, the drive and the driven gear. And these gears are necessary because the mag drive ratio will vary between different engines, and you end up having to get the back cover RPM at crankshaft speed or cam speed on a 4-cycle engine. So these different gear ratios are available for the different magneto drive ratios of the Altronic 3. Everything in the back cover, these gears are all replaceable. The bearings are replaceable on each end of the alternator section. So this product is completely rebuildable. Now we get into the 3NG, and we have some pictures on the right side. You can see that the pickup plate and all that assembly is buried underneath this cup, which has a magnet in it, which turns on Hall effects instead of those pickup coils. And the timing indicator on the back cover only has one for clockwise or counterclockwise. It's just got one pointer. So it looks a little bit different. And first of all, the threes were introduced in the late 60s. And now we're into the next generation technology. It gives you full ignition output at reduced starting speed, so startability is going to be improved. Spark duration is improved over the original legacy product, and timing accuracy is also improved. The new design offers new product life with long-term parts and service access, cost control. It's all a surface mount manufactured printed circuit board. It's got fewer moving parts, so it's got greater reliability. And these have been out for since the beginning or late fourth quarter 2020. So just want to remind you that the Altronic 3, the legacy or standard units, are still in production and available. So Q4 2020 is when the first NG units were released. And when we did release them, the dominant volume drivers, most of the units that we sell the most of were the 12 and 6-cylinder units. And that's what we first released. After we had a little bit of time on those, we had the 16 and 8-cylinder units. Those were released in 2021, and the 2, 3, and 4 cylinders, which is step 3, those have not yet been released. So that'll be the next item to be released in the NG Altronic 3. All the documents are all posted to the web on this product also. The manufacturing cost for component parts for the Legacy 3, that was one of the biggest drivers. The pickup coil assembly is very labor intensive, very delicate windings and parts to manufacture. The newer design, it's all a surface mount. It's lower in cost, should be more reliable than the pickup coil assemblies. And the other thing to remember, though, that not all of the models, the legacy models, will be transitioned into 3 and G products. So there's, again, some of the T connectors, some of the odd firing patterns. So we will continue to have the legacy products for the units that will not be transitioned. The other thing that has happened is that the R-board program has been discontinued. The R-board, if you're not familiar with it, is we had the circuit board part number, then we had a -R, and it was highly discounted. And when you returned the core boards from a distributor, you could purchase the R boards, which again were just discounted. It was the same product, just discounted. So now we have done away with the need to return any of those circuit boards. Now the circuit boards are just the standard part number. There's no more R board, no exchange boards, and the price is relatively unchanged for those Altronic 3 PCB circuit boards. Some of the reasoning to update to the NG back cover, and I just want to make a point, is that when you upgrade to an NG, the entire back cover is sold as an assembly. So when you say you have an Altronic 3 that has failed, and it's usually the circuit board that is needing replaced, that circuit board, the cost to upgrade to an NG complete back cover is only about 20% more than the price of that original circuit board. So it's a great value, gets you complete new warranty, the magnet, cup, gear, everything ready to bolt onto the Altronic 3 is ready to go. And it's only about a 20% increase over the price of the original circuit board replacement. So it's a great value, and we've had very good success with the 3 NG upgrades. The Legacy 3 versus 3NG complete unit part numbers. Left side is the Legacy, right side is the NG. And here we have an example of an 8829 HT BEL, and here we have an 8829 BEL NG. And the HT Originally, there was a standard without the H. The H gave you a higher output. Well, they're all H's now, so in the legacies. There was also an S, an extra high output, and then there's also the T connector, the electronic timing option. Both of those go away when you go into the NG product. They're all high output, all long duration. So the new part number goes from an 8829, maybe an H or an HT BEL to just an 8829 BEL-NG. And that designates the new complete unit part number. So numbering system is almost identical to the original with just a couple small changes. The 3NG back covers are only sold complete. There's no service parts yet. Those will come eventually. Right now, they're not even 2 years old, so they're all still under completely the original warranty as they were sold as a back cover. So no issues there. We're still, if there are any failures, we're still covering those. The front housing, which is the rotor and stator, those are all the same. Same designation in the part number. No differences there. The back cover part numbers in the service manual, we have the unit number and the stator and the back cover part numbers here, and we do not have any of the 2 through the 4-cylinder back covers, but we listed them because we intend to get into them fairly soon. But these are the part numbers you would order for a replacement NG back cover. Some of the 3 NGs will not be produced, and those are the lowest volume units, ones that we are typically not selling very many of. And this is a list of those, Ariels, Ajaxes. Ajaxes may come here as we get the 2 and 4 cylinders. But some of the others, some of these 4Fs, 4Gs, Coopers, GMVs, again, a lot of these are the lower speed applications. Some of the Ingersoll Rands, Coopers, PSVGs, a lot of these. The other ones that aren't going to be done will be the MEPs. Those had the extra high output alternator sections, and there's no intention at this point to do them. But again, a lot of these engines are already moved into CPU 95s if they need any of these higher end features. Okay, so that's about it for the 3 and the 3NG as an overview. The 5 and 5NG, again, in the literature, go to our homepage, go to the downloads, and then the 5 and 5NGs are located in that section. We've got the brochure, application, installation, service for the 5s, and then the 5NGs. And the other thing that's additional are these upgrade instructions, and we're going to do a little bit of an overview on those for you. So the 5 brochure, much like the 3, goes over the features and benefits. This is the first place to start. And again, eliminates the magnetos, the breaker point magnetos. It's a capacitive discharge, as all the Altronic products are. Self-contained timing and distribution, extended spark plug life, great ignition performance. These have been around since the early 80s, pretty much a standard on the small engines. And these are from anywhere from 1 to 6 cylinder engines. The back side of the brochure, front side of the brochure, back side shows you the back cover, removable back cover. It had the drive gear and driven gear, much like the 3, the plate and pickup coils internally, a circuit board, and everything is contained in that back cover. So the back cover, if you replace it, you're pretty much replacing the entire unit with the exception of the alternator section. The point with the introduction of these products is that we are still continuing all the legacy 5 units and circuit boards at the same time, so that if you do have to go or back to them, or you need something with a timing back cover, like you see on the bottom right here, you can still do that with the legacy products. And we still have the dual timing circuit board or box available for use with a T back cover. And again, those are used when you have dual fuel applications. So pretty much a smaller version of the Altronic 3. These are the two views of the 5 and 5NG. The immediate thing that you see on the back cover is that the the timing mark is a single mark versus the clockwise, counterclockwise on the legacy on the left side. Otherwise, the product looks pretty much the same. And one of the differences with the 5 is that we don't just sell, like the 3, we are only selling the complete back cover. With the Altronic 5 NG, we're selling an upgrade kit, which will get you the complete conversion kit to make it an NG. We'll show you some pictures of that. This is the 5NG picture brochure. Basically the same features and benefits as the standard 5, just a few changes to designate the differences between the NG and the standard legacy 5. The circuit board, as you see in the back cover here on the right side, looks a little bit different, and much like the Altronic 3 NG variation, has a cup, and underneath the gear, that is where it's triggering Hall effect components. So it eliminates all of the trigger assemblies, trigger coils, pickup coils. The thing that is an improvement on the NG variation of the 5 is that it's got full ignition output energy at reduced starting speeds. The other thing is that the original legacy had 80 microsecond duration of the spark with the standard coils. This one has 300 microseconds. So the spark duration is greatly improved. So there should be some improvements in combustion stability with this NG variation. The new design and technology offers new product life with long-term parts and service access, and also cost control for new units and parts. How is it different from the Altronic 5? Circuit board and pickup assembly have been integrated into a single PCB assembly, which is surface mount PCB technology, and it accurately places the trigger components, which are Hall effect switches, and that eliminates all the pickup coils, the plate assemblies, and the external Zener diode. The cup that you see, or magnet holder is the official term, the bottom side of this piece up here has a small magnet in it, and as that magnet passes over components on the circuit board, the Hall effect circuits, that replaces the pickup coil assemblies in the legacy product. So that triggers the appropriate ignition output and dumps the storage capacitor into the ignition coil. The alternator section, and this is part of the upgrade kit. It's NEO boron rotor magnet replaces the original rotor. The one on the left is the original legacy rotor. The one on the right is the NEO boron magnet. And that is, the old one is pressed off, the new one is pressed on, and that gives you the higher output, which is used for the NG product. So how do you convert to an Altronic 5 NG? You order the update kit. The kit part number is simply the existing part number with the characters -NG-KT added as a suffix to the end of the old part number. So the update kit for 6A34-A would then be a 6A34-A-NG-KT. And for a 4A24-AW, it's simply a 4A24-AW-NG-KT. So it's very simple. All these part numbers are on the label plate on the Altronic 5. So it's very simple to get the correct number to order the kit. Kit requires the PCB assembly, magnet rotor, the gear trigger assembly, and hardware to complete the upgrade process. Standard hand tools that you use for the original Altronic 5 service is the same ones that you use for the NG upgrade. Once it's upgraded, you test the unit on a test stand. These are typically done by distributors and dealers. Before returning it to service, you're going to run it on the test stand, make sure it performs to the service manual specifications. And the Altronic 5 NG upgrade manual, we're going to give you a little review of that and note to you some of the details there. So this is just a summary. Those upgraded instructions have much more detail, but this is the legacy back cover. The first thing you do is remove the screw in the center. And once you do, you can remove this gear and trigger arm off of there. Once it's off, then there's a plate that's removed. Once that plate is removed, you see that everything that's below. These are all the pickup coils. You remove the screws and strip everything out of that back cover. What you have left is a bare back cover with just a shaft through the center. At that time, if it needs a new back cover bearing and shaft, you could be replacing that. At that time, you would clean this surface, which is where the circuit board is going to be mounted. You would install, this is where the Zener diode was mounted in the hardware kit. There's a plug, a screw, and a nut to plug that and plug the hole there. This is that Zener plug. Then the circuit board is installed, placed inside. There's 3 screws right there that mount this, and we're going to show you some detail on those screws on a later slide too. But you can see the simplicity of this. That whole circuit board mounts with just these 3 screws and a few screws through the back cover. Once it's in place, there's 4 screws on the connector. This is where that Zener plug is located. This screw right here goes into this heat sink for the voltage regulator and heat sink for the other circuitry. And this is mounted, the gear and the cup magnet holder is mounted, pressed on, the screw is tightened, and it's pretty much ready to go. The alternator section, you remove the old rotor, magnet rotor, and then put on the new NEO boron magnet. And then that's all you have to do with the alternator section. Again, these are typically only about, for the upgrade kit, it's only about 10% more than the cost of a legacy circuit board replacement. So for 10% more, you're getting a lot of product. You know, the new magnet rotor, you're getting the new circuit board, all the hardware that it takes to upgrade it, and it simplifies the entire product back cover. The other thing that you'll see in there are the upgrade instructions, which we had just given you the short form of those upgrade instructions. Then we also have this bulletin under the bulletin section, service bulletins, 527. This is pretty recent. I think it was just done in January. It's the upgrade improvements. So this is what we're going to take a quick look at next. And in that bulletin, we noted that we improved the adhesive on the main storage capacitor. These storage capacitors, the first ones were installed by putting a white silicone on them, pressing them into place and then soldering the leads on them. And we found that some of them with vibration have actually fractured the leads on the storage capacitor. So we have upgraded within the last number of months to an epoxy. And there's two pictures of epoxy, and the first ones were done with the adhesive coming out of the tube, and they weren't exactly pretty, but they were very functional. And then the latest application methods allow for some smoothing of that, and it forces it into the capacitor a little bit better. So the ones that you'll see moving forward will probably look a little bit more like this one. The other thing we have in this service bulletin, we noted some changes because when you mount this circuit board over time, sometimes you're installing the new NG circuit board into a back cover that may have been produced, could be 30 years ago, could be the 80s. And the holes that are drilled and tapped in here, some of them, because of just tolerance stack up, may not have been tapped deep enough for the original screws. And when you mounted this circuit board, you were using the original hardware for the plate. And that plate was thicker than the circuit board. And then it's possible, and we've had a few of them that have had these connections right here where they did not tighten securely and the grounding was compromised. So we'll show you a little bit more of that in the next slides. So this one, these are the Hall effect switches, and this is a 6-cylinder board. These are the holes where the circuit board is grounded. And these Hall effect components, just due to tolerances of the circuit board back covers, where the gear and the magnet holder are mounted, we found that actually this
Tom, I believe we lost you.
Yeah, we lost you.
So see, Matt Trina is on here. Matt, maybe in the interim while we get reconnected with Tom, is there any specific comments that you'd be able to make on this particular step?
Sure, Dave. Let's see here. I'm looking at just where he left off. He was explaining the was it the Hall effects? Is that where he was at? Oh, and it looks like I just lost his presentation too. Okay. Anyway, let me see if I can jump in here real quick and bring up those instructions and then get on there. So I apologize. And yeah, so he was discussing the cup and the Hall effects, and as he was describing earlier, how those magnets swing across those Hall effects for the timing. That cup where it's mounted, there was some things that happened along the way where those screws may back out due to vibration or other things. So there's been some upgrades, and you could see in that last picture. And I'm going to try to bring that up if you just give me a second. Apologize for that. And go. So I'm in, and obviously I don't have his presentation, but hopefully you can see this. Can you see that?
We can. Yeah, maybe even make it a little
great.
bigger if you could.
Sure thing, Dave. Yeah, so I apologize. I don't have what he was going off of. I don't know if he was using these exact instructions or if they were something that he had modified in his PowerPoint. But in any case, where we kind of left off was with mounting this cup right here. And as you'll see, we now have different washers in here to mount this cup to make sure that it doesn't come loose. And when you install this, there was where he was at earlier was describing how some of the circuit boards, based on the tapping of mounting the circuit board in say old units, legacy units that were out in the field for a long time. Like you said, it was kind of where the screws maybe didn't go all the way down. There's definitely instances of where, even though the screws may have been tight, they weren't holding the circuit board appropriately. And what can happen there is if this board moves around, you'll end up seeing some instances where the Hall effects that are underneath this cup. So this cup is moving around. Obviously, is our timing gear. And there's a magnet mounted in there that goes past the Hall effects. And what we would see is if this wasn't tight, not only would you have poor grounding, but the cup would actually hit those Hall effects in some instances. And we only have, I think it's about 40 to 45 thousandths, if I remember correctly, of a gap. So what you'll see is if this circuit board is loose, you'll have some erratic timing. This may hit, and then you also will lose your ground. So we went through some steps here to go ahead and make sure that we improved that. And I think he had some specific pictures of the parts themselves. But let me see if I can find it in here. There should be, well, I don't see that exactly. But in any case, the couple things that we did was we improved the grounding here that you can see. And then if I can just pause here and go to the service instructions, I'll just show you in a blown up view. The other thing that I'm referring to on the circuit board is where Tom left off. So let me just bring that up. Here we go. This is what I want. All right, let me share again here for you guys. And I apologize for having to bounce back and forth here, but yeah, so we'll go into here. So, so this kind of provides a better view as to what I'm referring to here. So I just rotated that so you can kind of see it go together from left to right. But what we want to do is these screws are now different that mount the board, and these washers are now different. So these are a little bit shorter that come in the upgrade kit. And then these washers are more of a bite type washer. So they're kind of serrated on both sides and kind of really bite into the mounting of the circuit board to prevent these from backing out due to vibration. There was a standard split lock washer on there, but these will serve they're kind of beveled a little bit to compress, and then they also will serve as a real nice anti-rotation lock washer. So those are the two major things that we did to kind of just we've shipped a lot of these units and kits, and we have had just a few instances here in isolated locations where this is kind of happening. So this ECN is in process. The one thing we're waiting on right now, so we've done these screws and washers. There's this grounding wire right here. And one thing to note about that, you'll notice here in the service instructions that the wire is below this lock washer. So, not to insult anyone's intelligence, but you always want the lock washer to be on top and right below the screw, because that's what's going to prevent the screw from actually turning. And the one thing we're waiting on now, we're just a couple weeks out, and then this will flow into production, is this label here. So this, in our instructions, we've always said that this outside unit should be grounded, because you can't really always rely on this mounting. If you can imagine, through the coupling, through the coupling here, and the bolts and all that, to actually go through the shaft or through the bolts if there's a gasket, to provide ground for the unit. So it's always been recommended to ground the case, and in a lot of cases it was not grounded. And with advanced technology and using silicon based parts that are now active polyfix switches and things, grounding has always been important, but most definitely important now, as we've been able to kind of advance the technology here with this circuit board. So you get increased timing, accuracy, those types of things, but you have to make sure your grounding's good. So what we did was added this wire, and then just added a label here that goes kind of right between these screws, and just reminds everyone to ground the unit, and then it's right there for you to just hook that wire up. So this label's a couple weeks out and on order, and as soon as that comes in, that will start shipping in the parts kit and on full units. So that's fully implemented. We're just, like I said, waiting on this grounding label. So
we'll have a bulletin coming out on that this week. The target is to have that come out here to kind of explain all this and put all this in writing, so that everybody's aware that this is coming. So exactly what Matt has gone through here. So want to make sure everybody has the full scoop here as we march forward.
Yeah, so that's kind of the small upgrades that we've done. I was surprised to see the amount of kits that we've sold. I mean, there are a lot of these out there now, running well, and yeah. So I'm not real sure where else Tom was going to go with all of this. Anything else you want me to cover, Dave? Those are the. I think Tom went through most of the operation, the benefits,
He did, yeah.
Where to find everything. I've been listening in here, and it sounds like he did cover just about everything except for this last piece. So
he did actually. Tom is back in. He has recovered from his internet outage.
Okay,
so,
great.
Mr. Trainer, thank you for Mr. Trainer. Thanks for jumping in the breach, sir. While Tom got reset.
Sure thing. I'm going to go ahead and exit screen sharing here, and hopefully that was helpful.
It was. Thank you very much.
All right. Sure thing, Dave.
Tom, are you going to reshare?
I am. 1 second.
Okay.
I lost my darn screen here. Okay, you can see it now, I assume.
Good stuff. Yes, sir.
Okay, the back cover screws, I would assume that Matt had mentioned to you that these have been changed, and what we're using now is a different screw. And where I was sort of leading was that some of these vintage houses could have had some shallow tapped holes, and the PCB is thinner, so we've changed to this screw in the kit. Now, these are not an issue in units manufactured at Altronic, because we're controlling the housings and the machining and everything else. So those are using the original screws and lock washers. But what will be included in the kit are these new, they're slightly shorter. They went from a 3/8 to a 5/16 screw. It's got a nylon patch, so it's like a locking mechanism for that. And also, we're including new stainless steel washers. It's a conical washer, so it's like a spring. So as you screw it down and torque it, it's going to flex and give some spring load to that screw. So the serrations on it also act like a locking mechanism. So those should stop any issues with those circuit boards not being firmly attached and having bad grounds in the circuit board to back cover mounting. The other thing that we had brought to light on that bulletin was the grounding of the 4 through 6 cylinder units. They have to be grounded with this ground wire from the back cover to the common coil ground and engine ground. And the picture here highlighting that in yellow is out of the instructions, and it's always been in the instructions. It's just that through grounding of the unit, the original legacy units probably functioned okay, but in the NG variation, we have to be sure that ground wire is on. So now in the kits, we are including this ground wire with a ring terminal here for a screw on the back cover and a ring terminal to ground back to the coil ground on the engine or engine ground. And we've also included a warning label on the back cover that is on units, and this will also go into the kits for the 4 through 6 cylinders to be affixed to the back cover when you put the entire assembly back together. So that's the change that you'll see in these kits moving forward within the next number of weeks. Okay, and sorry about that outage. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I had to reset my router and it worked fine, but I don't typically have those type outages, but things happen, I guess. So anyway,
no
do we have
worries,
any
Tom.
questions? Do we have any questions?
Tom, I mentioned to the group here that we will likely have a service bulletin addition to cover some of the most recent revisions here and upgrades to the kits
Right.
and so on. So that'll be out in the next week to 10 days or so.
Yeah, the upgrade instructions, because we have the new ground wire to be included, the change to the screws, that may be updated also with a new date so that it's all concise in one location. So
You bet.
Okay,
Folks,
I have a question.
sure.
If you could back up a couple slides, Tom, to the gear assembly on the Altronic 5. The driven gear.
Okay. Is this enough?
Yes. When you're installing the driven gear and put the hold down screw, tighten it up, and it's assembled. Then you go to put the timer arm on the front of it. The timer disc
Yes.
on the front of the shaft.
Yes.
There's nothing back here to align.
Yeah, I know.
the red
I
mark.
know. Yeah, I know what you're speaking of, and I don't know if there's a good picture, but for example, in the bottom side over here, you can see the magnet right there. And some of the assemblers are actually using like a magic marker, and they're putting a line on the outside of that cup so that when you go to align it, you will have a vertical line on the outside. And that is lined up, I believe, at the 12 o'clock position, all the way at the top here. And that will help you align it. So if you have any without the mark on them, you might want to use a magic marker and permanent marker and make a line on it so that you can help with that alignment at that vertical position.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing that we seem to have missed, this assembly with the gear and the magnet holder cup, this is sold as an assembly. So these screws, you'll see that this is a little bit different than maybe the originals, and it has this larger washer, and that bites into the nylon of the gear. And you can see something blue on there, and that's a Loctite product. It's not your typical Loctite, like the red, blue, purple Loctite. Those are only for fasteners that go into metal and aluminum. When they go on to nylon, those thread locking materials do not work. So there's a special thread locker sold by Loctite Corporation that is made for plastics that we use on that. And since those are not removable and replaceable, it's sold as a complete assembly. That only should be used here, sold as a complete assembly with that thread locking compound on those screws. So We had a few of those that backed out in the original design, so this is an improvement over that. So if you do return any of these products because of warranty issues, you'll get it back with full modifications. The other thing that has changed, as you can see from these feeler gauges, the yellow and the orange, is that we had to go, because of that tolerance stack up, we had to add that shim, the possibility of needing the shim underneath this rotor gear assembly, like the original product did, the Legacy. That was in order to keep that gap from the timer arm to the magnet plate or the pickup plate, the proper gaps. We found that some of these, and we don't see it on new units manufactured, the complete units at Altronic. What we're seeing it in is these older back covers because of just tolerance issues over many years of manufacture. And so we've reinstituted the use or need as you do that update to check this clearance and also add those shims. So that's part of what got skipped in the transition with the issue with the router here. So does that make sense to answer your question, Ken?
Yes.
Okay.
Folks, do we have anything else for Tom? Any other questions anybody'd like to ask or observations? All right. Well, Thomas, thank you very much for the hard work in putting all this together. Obviously, you'll hear from Tom is going to be working on the service bulletin here with the rest of the team over the next several days here to make sure everybody's up to speed as these the new kits roll out with the additional hardware. But yeah, certainly Tom remains the key contact on this if anybody has any specific issues that they'd like to raise. We're doing our very best to be very attentive on this subject and make sure that people have as little issue in transition as possible. So, Dana, I think we could probably end the record at this time.